look at me at a camera.
Okay.
Welcome everyone to the Bigfoot Influencers. We are thrilled to be here. Got a special guest today. So Dana's not joining us. Today we are joined by our son Tony. So Tony, say hello to the audience.
Hi everybody.
So we're thrilled. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Good. Tony just is getting ready to have a big birthday coming up. So he was in town celebrating. So we are just we thought we'd take advantage of it, have a little fun tonight, and hopefully educate you guys. We appreciate each and every one of you who join, who support, who check out the Untold Radio Network, and just thrilled that to have you here with us. So today we're going to do a little bit of something different. Today we're going to talk about some historical reports. We're going to talk about Bigfoot in Delaware, if it even exists in Delaware, and that could be interesting. So, I mean, Tony, you've been in a tree stand before, right?
Yep.
So we may ask you about that later after we listen to some of these reports. What I thought I'd do is so there's different reporting agencies, as we all know, or if you don't know who are watching or listening to this, the oldest outside of John Green's reports. I mean, John Green had collected hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of accounts and reports and started making a database, which was file cabinets. If you ever guys get a chance, check out Todd Prescott's Sasquatch Archive YouTube page, and he's got not only John Green's things, he's just got a bunch of great things on there that he's been sharing and digging into. But John Green started reporting back in the mid-'90s. Matt Moneymaker created what's called the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, the BFRO, with the help of others. And that was kind of what started the online database. And it gave all people who had experiences a different way to report, and an avenue. They could just go online. Of course, this was back in the mid-'90s, so it was a little more archaic than it is now, but it gave them a place to do it. So that's the BFRO. Now today, there's so many other great places. I mean, you've got the BFRO, which still has thousands and thousands and thousands of reports. There's reports on something called the Flats that we don't see. It's an area they're unpublished reports, and sometimes they're unpublished because there's multiple reasons. Sometimes the investigators may not think they're credible. Sometimes it could just be they're not in an area that they could get and do a interview with somebody. So there's thousands of those. I think there's more reports in the Flats than there are actually published. So there could be, Tony, I've heard there could be just in the 50,000 or so reports out there. It's kind of crazy. It is, isn't it? So that's interesting. So what I thought I'd also do is we're going to talk about some reports here in Delaware, which I thought would be fun. Dana and I have talked about that a bunch of times, that we don't think this is a habitat for Bigfoot because we've got water all around us. They built a canal on the north side of here. So not that they can't swim. I mean, if coming from the west, they'd have to swim across the Chesapeake Bay. Not impossible. That might be a bigger feat, but it can be done. But then on the north side is a canal, where a man-made canal, which would be much easier. And we don't have bears in this part of the peninsula where we are. But there's definitely plenty of things here to eat. There might not be as much cover. We do have farms and fields. It's flat, but there's plenty of food. We've got water everywhere. There's plenty of deer. There's there's small animals. There's nuts and fruit, and there's plenty of things to eat. It's the cover might be an issue, but maybe not. We have some reports. So before we get into the Delaware reports, I'm going to read something, and I'll put my glasses on. Because that's what happens when you get old, Tony. Get ready for it. So our good friend, Dr. Russ Jones, when I interviewed him for my first book, he was kind enough to be part of the book. So thank you, Russ. But he also talked about his very first. Russ is part of the BFRO. He talks about his very first interview he did as a BFRO investigator, and I'm going to read what he shared with me for the book. So this is Dr. Russ Jones' words. He says, "My first BFRO case was the most compelling one. It was a state trooper and his wife. They were riding their four-wheeler in the summer, scouting for possible areas to hunt ginseng the following fall. He was traveling on a right-of-way. I see multiple reports of these types of areas. They are typically long, straight passageways and not near homes. In addition, a right-of-way provides an edge for other animals to travel, like deer, game birds, etc. This account, the state trooper had taken a turn from the right-of-way, as he stated that he glanced up and saw a fire-burnt stump."
Huh.
That's what he thought he saw.
Huh.
He then glanced down, and when he looked back up, he paused and said, and then he asked Dr. Russ, he said, "Have you ever seen one?" And Dr. Russ says, "No." And he said, "They're the size of a sheet of plywood." He paused. He said, "They're so large, it is hard to imagine that something like that could be in the woods." It was leaning back behind a small tree 20 yards from the witness. He was wearing a gun, although it was so enormous he did not even think of pulling it out. As he was trying to get the four-wheeler in reverse to retreat, his wife, who was on the back of the four-wheeler, asked, "What are you doing?" He says, "Look, look, look." And then she said, "Oh my God, no." They did get turned around and tore out of there. He told me later that it was interesting and almost funny that the Bigfoot was so large and was hiding behind such a small tree. His wife later had to get counseling for post-traumatic stress, and they decided to move from the country to the city. Even though they moved, every nighttime noise she would hear outside made her fearful that Bigfoot was in their neighborhood. I later brought the witness back to the site with another investigator. While there, he was clearly shaken. He was chain smoking and sobbing. Furthermore, another state trooper accompanied him. They both had their guns drawn at the entire time. I knew he truly saw something. So that was Dr. Russ's indoctrination to the BFRO, but it was a daytime sighting, multiple people, a state trooper who's they're trained observers, so I think that's pretty important. And he said the guy was never the same. He said he was shaking. I mean, it was crazy, and as he stated, he was sobbing. So that's pretty wild.
It's wild that
Yeah.
not only was he post-traumatically stressed from it, but also his wife that was also in the back of the four-wheeler. That means they truly saw something that was not normal.
Yeah, they saw something. I think I didn't have it in a book. I think he said it stood up. That's when he realized what it was. You know, when he first saw it, I think it may have been crouched down. I have to go back and don't quote me on that, folks, but I think that's what Dr. Russ told me. And Dr. Russ has just shared this story, in other avenues as well. But that's just pretty fascinating, I think. And it's a daytime sighting, multiple people. So they saw something. You know, we weren't there to see it, but they did see something. So the BFRO, they have a reporting, they collect all the reports. Also, there's other reporting agencies. They have what's called Class A. So a Class A sighting is a clear, visible, unobstructive sighting from a credible person, or credible sighting might be the better way to say it, because credible could be subjective. But I thought that was interesting. So that was Dr. Russ's first, and that was in West Virginia, I think, and not South, because Russ also does some things in southeastern Ohio, but I do believe that was West Virginia. And so it was neighboring to us. It's not too far from us. I thought I'd start off with that. And so in Delaware, we've got historically there's 5 reports, and they start back in 1998, and I guess the nearest one was 2012. That could be for multiple reasons. It could be that there's not any here, or there's very few if these sightings are legitimate. It could be that there's not enough. I don't think we have any BFRO investigators, and that could be because we're not in a hot spot. But if there's no one here to take the report, it never gets published. So that could be another reason why. We border the eastern shore of Maryland and the eastern shore of Virginia as well. So I think over on the Maryland side, and we can be in Maryland in 30 minutes, just driving west on the eastern shore. I think there might be some eastern shore reports on the Maryland side. So we can check that out too as well. So Tony's I think you want to read the next one. Tony's got one. He's gonna share with us. I can
do the next one.
This comes from the BFRO, folks.
All right, this one says it's from the year 2003. It was in the summer and June 7th. State Delaware, and the county was in Sussex County. The location details says my son and I plan on returning to better pinpoint the location this weekend. It was June 14th through the 15th. It says the distance between Cool Spring and Gravel Hill is approximately 4 miles. And they want to return to that intersection of Route 1 and Route 404 and get a reading from that location to the sighting area. All right, the details. I was driving and my son was in the passenger seat. We departed the park via Route 9, this park being Cape and Lopin State Park. Headed north a short distance on Route 1 and picked up Route 404 west. There was very little traffic on a secondary road at this time of morning, so I drove my high beams on and set the cruise control. Within a few minutes, I saw a movement along the right side of the road about 100 yards ahead and began braking. A doe stepped into the beam of the road and crossed from right to left. I continued braking almost to a complete stop in case more deer followed the doe, but she apparently was alone. Another few minutes passed before we saw a car approaching from the opposite direction. We could see its headlights glow before we could see the car itself because we were approaching a gentle curve in the road to the right. I flicked my headlights to low beam and in a matter of a few seconds saw the silhouette of a large beep cross the road from the center part of the road across our lane of travel and entered the woods to our right, some 100 to 150 feet ahead. My son immediately exclaimed, "What the heck was that?" I asked him if he saw it too, and he said, "Yes, there were 2 of them." 2? I asked, and he said, "Yes, a tall one in the front and a shorter one 4 or 5 feet behind." My truck has almost slowed to a complete stop by this time because my foot was on the brake as soon as I first spotted the creature. My son and I slowly drove by the spot where they appeared to enter the woods, but we could see nothing. The car that was approaching passed us at this point without slowing down or stopping. I asked my son to describe what he saw. He said a large thing walking on 2 legs with another shorter thing following behind. He added that the shorter one was about chest high on the larger one. My son is nearly 6 feet tall, and he said the larger one was taller than him. I saw the taller one's side profile as a silhouette, almost a shadow. It moved across the road quickly in a purposeful manner. I could see no arms or arm swing. It did not turn its head to look towards us. I could discern no color or body features beyond a head, torso, and legs. There was no accompanying odor. When we passed what we believed to be the creature's entry point in the woods, my son's passenger side window was completely down, and mine was partially down. A normal, moist, woodsy nighttime odor was all we noticed. Additionally, observation, my son, in his own words, "My father saw one thing cross the road while I saw 2. I use the word thing because I truly have no idea what I saw across the road that night. They were not quadrupeds. The larger one walked upright and at a small pace. No bouncing around. It didn't seem to speed up as our truck approached. When the oncoming car drew closer to the curve in the road, I then saw the second shorter one in the glow of the other car's headlights. The second shorter thing followed closely behind the larger thing. I could see that it wasn't it wasn't standing straight up like the larger one, but was slightly leaning forward. The silhouette of both things appeared fuzzy, like a picture out of focus. My dad said he didn't see arms or arms moving, but I could see long arms moving back and forth on both things. The arms didn't move very much, but I could see them. I don't mean to make a joke out of what we saw, but the big thing could have looked like Yao Ming, the Texas basketball player from China, eye to eye.
Yeah. Wow. So that was a little while ago, I guess 20, around 20 years ago, 21 years ago. But it's interesting because we said earlier there's no bear here. So it rules out, some people say who see this, they say that it could be bear, and there's probably mistaken identity plenty of times. And bears do get up on their hind legs, but we don't have bear here.
No.
And this was, I think it was early morning or like late, like.
Yeah, they're saying early morning. So, deer being sighted there, that makes sense. But anything bigger than a deer, that doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, and what do we have here? To another multi-person, even though it was dark, they had high beams and they had light, and it's pretty cool, So I mean, it wasn't clear whether they said that it was chasing a deer, because did they say they saw the deer early first and then they went?
Yeah, they saw the deer first, and then didn't think that anything else was coming, but they were still moving slowly just in case, and then that's when they saw whatever this Yao Ming thing was.
Right. Well, he's relating the size of it.
Yeah.
Crazy. And just, something about where we are. So Delaware is obviously is one of the smallest states in the country. I think we're number 2, I guess, to Rhode Island. There's only 3 counties here. I mean, you can cross from one tip to tip of the state probably in 2 hours. But we only do have 3 counties. And like I said before, we border Maryland. And all of the reports in the BFRO database are in our county. Yeah. And you can pretty much cross the county in 30 minutes tops or less. It depends on where in the county you go. So it is interesting that all the reports are pretty close to where we live, which is cool too. I mean, I don't know if there's any hunter reports, but that'd be interesting. We know some hunters. Maybe we can talk to them. But you've been up in deer stands, and has anything weird, or have you been up? Because when you're in a deer stand, obviously you're just sitting there. You've got to be as quiet as possible, so you're not bringing any attention to yourself. Has anything happened weird? Have noises that you've heard out there?
There's actually been one time. So the place that we were actually hunting was, it's a long stretch, open field, but on the backside is all woods. So the deer stands were along both. So you could see the front in the field in case, the deer were running out, but you can also have behind in case you hear things from behind. My stand that I was in a corner. So about 100 yards probably to my left was like a little crease, and there was 3 trees. And I remember looking over, and, at this time, like, I was bow hunting, and, still it was gun season too. So like they were using guns and they had already shot off. So it was kind of weird to like see anything because everything was scared. But I looked over and I saw this silhouette of something. And at that time, I wasn't really sure what it was, but something took me not to draw back and shoot. So it was definitely weird because it didn't seem like it was a deer. It seemed like it was something else, almost like it was a human. Because I was kind of freaked. Like, I was kind of like, I shouldn't pull, because like, what if that's somebody, like one of my friends that's out there, like searching for what they just shot at, and I'm about to shoot back into there.
Right.
So it's kind of like, And I don't think even at that time, I don't even think I would have ever believed that that's what it was. But it was definitely something that was different.
Folks, I'd never heard this story. This is the first time for me, so it's interesting. You wouldn't tell me that.
No, I mean,
was it moving?
it was moving. It's kind of weird, it was a silhouette. It went behind a tree and it stopped, and it kind of went slowly. And then as soon as it got, so it was the two trees were kind of skinny, and then the bigger one was in the middle. It got right behind that bigger tree, and all of a sudden it was gone. So it was like, because I remember getting in the truck, and because I was with Gage at the time, and I got in the truck with Gage, and he was like, "Oh, did you see anything out there?" I was like, "Yeah, kind of." I was like, "I saw something," but I was like, I didn't pull on it because I was like, I didn't know what it was, so I was like, I didn't want to shoot because I was kind of scared it was one of you, and like, he's like, "Damn, like, what if it was something?" I was like,
Could have been a buck. Yeah, I mean, it could have been. I mean, how far away was it?
There was probably a good 100 yards. So even with a bow shot, it was still a shot that would have been hard, but I could have pulled it off.
Yeah, because even if it was a deer, I mean, at that distance, you might, if you miss and you're chasing it down, and
yeah, you're running and chasing it, and you're searching for hours for it. So yeah.
Wow. What was it nighttime? Day? I mean,
No,
obviously early morning, probably.
Early morning. This was probably November, so it was cold, but it wasn't like to the point where it was super cold yet.
And so invisibility then, because a lot of leaves here, different parts of the country, obviously it varies, but most of the trees are off the leaves then.
Yeah, and there were no leaves at this point in the morning. It was getting closer to when the sun was probably about to come up, so visibility was a little bit better for us to see.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew about that.
Mm-mm.
That's no noises or anything, no smells. I mean, it's 100 yards is kind of far away for.
No smells, no noises, which that's what was weird about it. So I was actually using a deer call and no noises. And that was the thing. I used the deer call and then I saw it, but no noises. I didn't hear any brushes of the leaves. It was silent.
Because the leaves are probably crunchy then.
Yeah. Right? But yeah, it was definitely a wild situation.
Weird. I mean, it could have been something. I mean, it was something different than normal, but that's, can't say what it was. But that's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that. I never knew that, so I'm excited to hear that. That. And he wasn't planning on doing this podcast, so it wasn't like he thought about this to get it up. So, oh wow. So I'm gonna read. Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna read another one from the BFRO. This one happened in 2004, and then the next one we're going to get to a more recent one. January, says winter. January 13th, Sussex County again. Mm-hmm. Is on a back road near in a town called Georgetown, which is probably, again, everything here is 20 to 30 minutes. Right here says near Del Tech, which is our community college. So we that's about 30 minutes from here. Mm-hmm. We know that very well. We've been back and forth there. I think at some point, you and two of his brothers all had taken classes there at one point.
Yeah.
So here's what was observed. Is the nearest road was Old Furnace Road, which is interesting too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So because we know exactly where that road is. I was coming home from a night class at Del Tech. I usually take a back road over to Route 9 to get home faster. So I left college and made my way home on my normal back road detour. I got through the first half of the twisted road and came up on the stop sign to turn right on Asbury Road. As I did turn, I turned on my high beams. I came around a turn that leads to about a quarter mile or a little more stretch of road. About 3/4 of the way down the road, I could make out something or a standing figure next to a utility pole. So immediately I turned off my high beams, thinking it was a person because it was standing up. As I got closer to this being, I was taken back by its size. I started to slow down, not knowing it. I guess because I was puzzled and curious. As I stared, I could make out the bottom side, broad shoulders, the fact that it was standing with its back to me, looking into the woods. Oh, and hair at this point, and hair that came to a point at the top of its head. The entire figure had a thick black cover of hair with no hair on its hands. I could not see its feet. Standing next to the utility pole gave me some reference for height. I estimated it was around 7 to 8 feet tall. I was almost past this creature when it looked at me and then looked back into the woods as if it didn't care I was there. Once I made eye contact, the hair on my arm stood up and I peeled out of the location. I was confused as to what just happened and couldn't believe what I witnessed. It is also hard to comprehend that I might have seen a Bigfoot and I have seen something that doesn't exist. So, yeah, that's interesting. So another sighting, Class A sighting, which is, and there's some figures here, the drawings here of what he the images, what he saw. Again, if you go to the BFRO, it's a ton of, you can search by state, you can do a bunch of different things and just roll through the reports. That's just fascinating. There's thousands of them there, obviously. Yeah, so that's interesting. So you've been, yeah, what would you do?
I would probably do the same thing, to be honest. It's kind of crazy to think about the amount of times that I've probably taken Old Furnace Road and been around that road, and to think that something like that was sighted there. But yeah, like my dad said earlier, this is such a small area that we live in that, it's when you see something that's out of the normal, it shoots off these flags that makes you curious, because you're not used to seeing weird stuff, because it's just what we're so accustomed to, the small town living that everyone knows everybody. And to see something like that, yeah, to answer your question, I would be probably doing the same thing that person did. I would be going over and being like, huh, what is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
who is that?
Right.
Yeah,
you wouldn't expect it.
No.
Right. Yeah, and there was back in I can't remember how long ago. I want to say it was 50 plus years ago, but I'm not sure. Down in southern part of the county, there was some stories turned out to be newspaper hoaxing or just looking for publicity. They're down in Trap Pond State Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there, I can dig it up later and get the actual name of it. But there's newspaper articles, and it came out later that it was just something for publicity, but it wasn't real. But yeah, we have trees and forests, and then farm fields, and now fast forwarding, there's more and more homes on the coast side. But still in between, it's just, so you've got to, at some point, it's not like the Pacific Northwest where you've just got miles and miles and hundreds and thousands of miles of woods and trees and forests. You got patches of farmland in between. And so at some point they're going to have to cross the road. And that. And so the right of ways, when you guys hunted, did you, like you said, did you use the right of ways much? Where they have, clear cut, from the telephone pole lines and things like that?
No, because some of the cool part about being here is kind of goes to that point, is there's a lot of farmland, which means that those farmers own that land, and it's hundreds of acres of land that's just trees to farms and stuff. So where we were was actually one of our other friends' family's own farms. So back where we were, there was no tree or no telephone poles. It was backed into, like, we parked on a weird side street that was gravel, and we walked probably 2 miles, 2 miles to get to where it stands. So, but yeah, there is some places that do have, you'll see the stands, and there is like cutaways and stuff. So,
Right. Yeah, we do, and we have a deer issue here just because we don't have predators, so the deer can get overpopulated here. They do have planned hunts. I've done some things in the past at we have a national park here actually, and they do events where they come and they just have to help clear it out. They have they have brought some coyotes in. Apparently, we've got a couple near here, or I don't know how many, but they have done that to help with the deer population. But yeah, it's there's not much around to except humans to actually help to hunt them. So it's pretty good life for them, and that's why. So if something like a huge predator would have plenty of opportunity to find things to eat here. I just go back to where we're, hiding places, and because it's flat, and we don't have caves, and we don't have, so there's not and there's, there's dense patches of woods, and there's plenty of water. I just would think that would be tough to have something large. Like it could pass through though. You never know. Can it pass through? You're gonna have to cross some water somewhere. So, I'm skeptical on if it even happens, but I'm going to read you one cool report, and Dana and I have talked about this on the show. So this was in the BFRO, but it's also in Kenny Irish did a book, a friend of mine. It's called American Cryptids. It's a super cool concept. What Kenny's done in the book, he's gone through every single state, and he's talked about. He does a little bit of history about the state, which is kind of cool. Says, "Hey, this is Delaware. Like Delaware is the first state." Does a little history about the state, maybe just some interesting facts, and then he'll talk about a state cryptid. Like we have something. I think it's the black dog is what he talks about in ours. But then at the end of every chapter, because he's in the Bigfoot, he has a Bigfoot story. So this report was in the BFRO, but then Kenny went and tracked a witness down, which I think Dana and I should try to track this witness down, and maybe this was in 2012, so it's not that long ago. Maybe her and I can find that witness. I'm gonna reach out to Kenny.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, and maybe we do a face-to-face interview with this person. I don't know if they live near here, but we live, because we're near a beach resort, and the beach is such a small part of the state, in a small state. People could travel here in the summertime. We have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people come down to the beaches. So, and then we're just north of Ocean City, Maryland. So there's a whole ton of people. We share the coast with them, with Ocean City and other beaches in between. So there's a ton of people that travel through here. So this one happened in 2010. This is the abbreviated version, but I think it's really cool. So it says, "Be warned, if you're in Delaware, you may see more than just a mermaid on display in cornfields. Some have witnessed the Route 1 Bigfoot, seen in Sussex County territory near the Brumley Family Park campground, and is said to be 7 to 8 feet tall with brown fur. In the summer of 2010, I said 2012, sorry everybody, a family was on vacation staying at the campground. They were at the end of their stay and packed up to head out. As they exited the campground onto Route 1 heading north, they came up to a cornfield on the right side of the car. The stalks of corn stood high and looked to be thick and healthy crop. The woman in the passenger seat watched the corn as they drove by. She noticed a figure walking in the stalks who ducked down as they passed. This would not normally seem strange, but the fact the stalks looked to stand over 6 feet tall, and it only came up to the chest of the figure. The woman immediately asked her husband if he had witnessed what he saw, but he had not. To this day, she cannot confirm or deny that it was in fact the Route 1 Bigfoot. I want to hear about the Route 1 Bigfoot. So, and just like the other reports, we talked about the height. And the last report before this, there's some, there's a utility pole for some height of reference. Well, so the interesting thing is this campground is literally a mile, not even a mile from our house. We can see outside the window here, Route 1, which they were talking about. We're right off the highway, and we've talked about this before. So if they hung a right, and me knowing what comes next after that park, there's a store, and then there's a pond, and then there's a house that's been there for many, many, many years before this, and then there's the fields, which is right across from us. So if she saw something that was 7 to 8 feet tall, it happened right across from our neighborhood, where about a quarter mile from here. So it's pretty cool, to think, And again, that was also in the BFRO as well, so you can find that at the BFR database. So we just thought it'd be cool to share a few Bigfoot stories in Delaware. So Tony spent some time as he was older. He was in an old house that he rented, and so we're gonna get a little weird here. Well, if not that Bigfoot isn't weird. So Tony had he lived in an old house, and he had a couple interesting weird things happen to him. So we're gonna let him share a couple things about what he saw for any of you guys, or not saw. I don't know what he experienced, but go ahead, Tony, take it away.
All right, so this is on the other side of the supernatural. I lived in a house that was built in the 1800s, and like they all say, when there's houses built from that long ago, there's people that are probably, it's probably a family-owned house. It's probably someone in the backyard that, who knows? Someone could have died in it. No one really knows the whole history of it, because it's only known what was reported on it. So I kind of had a few experiences, actually. The very first one I had was I was doing laundry in the basement, and so this house was 2 stories. It had 2 stories. It was all brick and all wood inside. It had an upstairs that was kind of like a bedroom, but it was more like a loft area.
Yeah.
And then downstairs was this creepy stairwell that went to the basement, and it wasn't a finished basement, but they had the laundry, like washer and dryer down there. So
it's your typical. I've been down. It's your typical creepy basement when you see on all those horror movies.
So I was
with the open stairs.
Creepy door. It's bad. I mean, it's like you have even the creepy walkway upstairs. Like you go into the basement and you can walk to the right, and then there was like the other little stairwell with the door that went out to the backyard.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
So I was sitting there doing laundry, and I had taken my dog at the time, Elsa. I had her down there, and I was just putting stuff in, and all of a sudden, she was laying there. All of a sudden, she jumped up, and she looked up to the ceiling, and I was like, "What is she looking at?" And then she just started barking, like she saw something. And weird, because again, it's the basement, and 2, there was nothing else that was heard, like no doorbell, no knocking on the door, nothing. It was just she stood right up, looked up at the ceiling, and started barking. So I was like, all right, whatever. Maybe she just heard something weird. And then she kind of she ran and she went back upstairs. And so I was standing there, and all of a sudden I got chills. So I was like, huh. My hairs on my arm started to stand. I was like, weird stuff. So I was like, cool. No, I kind of threw all my stuff in the washer, and I was like, all right, I'm getting the heck out of here. So I'm walking up I got to the stairs, and I was probably like first or second step in, and all of a sudden, like, it felt like, you know that feeling when you feel like someone's about to like grab you, like they're about to touch you like on your shoulder, but you're
You
not
got
there.
that. Yeah.
So like I felt it. I felt like there was a hand like coming to me, and as soon as it got close, all the hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and it was just like I just like got that weird cold shakes, and I like boom, ran up the stairs. I was like, nope, ran up the stairs. I closed the door. Honestly, I don't even know if I finished the laundry that day. I probably waited till the next day.
Yeah, because were there lights down? I mean, there was
There
windows.
was, but
Like a
it
little
was there was
window up
those
top.
creepy little like single light bulb ones, and it was on like three of them.
Right, but then you only had a couple little windows too, right?
Yeah, but they weren't even the windows that.
They're the tiny ones.
They're the type you can look into, but you can't.
Because most of the basement was obviously on the ground.
Mm-hmm. So that was the first scenario. You know, then every time I went down there, it was always weird. Like it was always like something was there with me, but it's just like that was probably the only time at that time that like they tried to like really interact with me. So then a little time went past, and you would start like you could hear like kids like playing upstairs.
Where, like, if you were in the main level,
You could hear them playing upstairs, like in that loft area. Keep in mind, I don't have kids. So there was at least two kids, and they were always playing with a ball. It almost sounded like a soccer ball or some sorts. Like it was like they were playing with it. They would run, they would kick it, and it would hit the walls, and they would just be laughing, having a good time.
Wow.
So those were, it was kind of like the weird, but it was kind of like, all right, well, it's wherever these kids are from, they're having a good time. So
they
there was nothing with that. Then there was a dog, another dog that we heard. And it wasn't only me. So at this time I had like roommates, and the roommates heard the dog, and they were like,
so what, like barking?
There's a dog barking, but like I would have my dog or like right next to me, laying down next to me and not moving at all, and there'd be another dog barking.
So where was the dog barking?
Almost like at the front door.
So you guys could be close and you could hear it? Like were you in your bedroom, or
that was more like in the bedroom?
So doors closed.
Doors closing in the bedroom, and you would hear it. And then the last one that I had. This one's actually probably the creepiest of them all.
Yeah, like the basement one wasn't creepy.
Yeah, right. There was actually one night I had woken up in the middle of the night, and I had just woke up with like a weird feeling. Like I woke up just chilled out. Like I was like, whoa. And like I woke up, and I'm like, like when you wake up and your eyes are all cloudy and you're trying to see, like I remember like still cloudy, and I looked over in the corner of the bedroom, and there was some woman standing there. Full white woman standing there. Just standing there.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Like, what was she wearing?
It was almost like a white. It was like almost like one of those old school white like sleep gowns, but like old school,
like from neck to toe,
like neck to toe, like full cover type thing.
Right. Pattern or anything?
Nah, couldn't tell a pattern, but it was full white.
Just chilling in the corner,
just hanging out in the corner,
looking at you,
just staring right at me.
The dog was in the room with you.
Yep.
Dog didn't notice anything.
Didn't know anything.
Was it like? Could you like? Was it transparent? Could you like see through it? Like, well, I mean, we typily think of a ghost like a spirit that's you can kind of like a shadowy or a ghostly, cloudy. You know what I'm
It was definitely cloudy. The face and stuff like that, it wasn't a color like a face, like our color, like it was like full white, like it was like a real weird, like in like that, that plain white color that like you would typically associate with something being a ghost or
So was the face the same color as the clothes? Like, was it all one color, or were there different colors?
You could differentiate the clothes between the face, but it was
Close.
Yeah. So I actually did some a little bit of research like after I had left. And I was just curious. I was like, I want to find out like what's up with this house, because there had to be something. And there was one report that there was two. So there was a report that there was a woman that had died in that house. She had passed away in her sleep, like randomly. And then there was the second one that there was actually two kids that have also passed in that house. Those are the only three of the deceased that like I had found, but I'm sure if we dug it up on the location of that house, we could probably find.
Yeah, I mean, because where did you go? Where did you go to start looking for? I mean, did you just like do internet searches with the address?
I had the internet searches. That was the main thing, is I did the internet searches on it and looked it up. But obviously with internet stuff, you can only see what people have posted between or put on there from the time that the internet was a thing. But I mean, if, this house was built in the 1800s, all this could have been reported.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of freaky. And what happens is going from the like some of the folks that I know that Dana and I are friends in the Bigfoot world, they'll go, you can put, if newspaper clippings and things get archived, you can find it. And you got to do a lot of digging. And what, the term Bigfoot wasn't coined, until the 50s, 1950s. And then Sasquatch wasn't coined till, the late 20s. So anything before 1929, I think, when J.W. Burns coined the word Sasquatch in Canada, you had to look for different names of things. So you don't know what you're looking for. So I think Matt Pruitt was telling me that's some of the interesting things when you're doing archival research, and Todd Prescott, I think, said the same thing. You got to look for things like demon, hairy man, all kinds of different, and then every region has different names for it. But so it is interesting. You should continue to do some digging about the house, find out the family. And I'm sure you can probably, the good thing about here is it's such a, even though we have a high influx of people that are moving in here, there's still a lot of old families that have generations and generations. Still we still have that small town feel. I mean, you get away from the beaches and we still have, even the beaches have a lot of everyone knows everyone type thing. So you could probably do some easy, and that happened right here in our town where we live in now. We won't mention the town, but it's pretty close to, we have near the downtown district of where we live. So it's probably could be easy to find out some more information about it. Yeah, you never know. It's I think most people, ghosts are ghosts. I mean, I don't think I've ever had an experience with a ghost, but I'm happy. I'm okay not doing that. They don't harm you. I mean, but it still gives you that freaky feeling.
Yeah, it's not a normal one.
Yeah, so definitely. Yeah, so this was, I hope you guys like this. We wanted to share some information. You guys get to meet Tony, so it's always fun. He's only in town, for a little while. He's got to go back to the real world, back to his job. But he got a few days off for his birthday, so we were able to celebrate that with him. And we thank you guys. This was a ton of fun, just kind of hanging out with Tony. And maybe we'll do some things later and bring him back in for something. You guys let us know what you think of the show. We appreciate each and one of you guys who tune in. And hopefully we'll have Dana back next week. She'll be back. She's here. We just thought Tony was here. We thought it'd be fun to have Tony on here. You guys probably we were going to try to get all three of us in, but it's we're not that smart when it comes to technology. So it turned out that this is what we did. We are going to have a crazy schedule coming up because we're going into May. We've got the Ohio Bigfoot Conference coming up. We're super excited about that. One day we'll get Tony. His brother Gabriel came out last year, but we're going to try to do that. Maybe get you out sometime.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do don't hold us to it, but our goal is we'll bring back some footage. We may do some interviews out there like we did last year. We interviewed John Hickenbottom, the state park naturalist. We'll see John again. I'm sure he'll be at the conference. But our plan, it's always busy when we get there because we've got a lot going on. I think we're going to do a couple things. I think we're going to do a something on Friday night for Mark in the after the VIP dinner. I think we're going to do something in the bar, Bigfoot related. So like a podcast trivia, guest interview. We're going to do something live, which is going to be a lot of fun. And we'll record that, obviously, so we can share that here as well. So really excited about that. We're going to go hang out with Dusty Ruth a couple weeks after that and do go on an expedition, a BFRO expedition in Southeast Ohio. So we're going to be in Ohio and then back out in Ohio a couple weeks later. And I'm sure Brad Kennan, Russ Jones, Mark DeWorth, and Dusty, and there might be some other guest visitors that come in. I'm not sure. So we're going to be excited about that, getting out and doing the BFR expedition. And again, once we come back from that, we'll have a ton of information. And hopefully, I don't know what the rules of engagement are with the expedition, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to share or record anything. Because it is, we are under the care and guidance of the BFRO at that point. It's their event. So I'm not sure what they'll let us, but we'll ask Dusty and team, and if we can do any interviews while we're there and share that, or we can always do a post while we'll have some fun, but we look forward to that too. But anyway, we thank you guys again for joining us, and hope everyone has a good night. Take care.
Thank you.